What do you now define as home?
Ghana is still going to be home. That's where I am from. That's where I live the longest. That's where when I go, at least I feel, this is home. In as much as I think that certain things need to change, maybe it may end up not changing, because of the exposure I've had, I have different opinions and perspective towards things. But irrespective of that, that place still feels like home. And if you ask me in the next several years where I find myself, I think it's still going to be back home at some point.
Yeah, we left too late to ever fully shed that part of us.
Exactly. So I know definitely at some point I'm going to go back.
Welcome back to Newcomers Podcast, people, where I explore what it means to be an immigrant with immigrants like myself. Today, I am talking to Emmanuel Ahiafor, who he has a very interesting journey. He moved from Ghana to Hungary. Now, that's a very interesting move, by the way, because I want to know why you chose that country and then Canada. And I think for me is first question really is why Hungary? Why not Germany?
Why not anywhere else?
Or Canada? Or like
well, yeah. And I'll tell you what, so I moved to Hungary in 2017. I'll tell you, prior to Hungary, I had, traveled around quite a bit, right? I think as of the time I was moving to Hungary, I had visited around 15 countries, if not a little more. Now, the story behind Hungary, have you heard the song Budapest by George Ezra? Have you heard that song?
No, I haven't.
Well, if you haven't, go check it out. So
I will.
I heard that song in 2015, right? I love the song. The title of the song is Budapest, which happens to be the capital of Hungary, right? So I love the song so much. I went to Google what Budapest is. I didn't really know about Hungary then. So it was like, yeah, capital of Hungary. So I started seeing pictures of the place and it was nice, right? So I told myself one day I would love to visit this country. And interesting enough, fast forward 2017, early 2017, I think around January, my girlfriend, now my wife, she traveled from Ghana to Poland for an internship. And, one time we're having a conversation, we're chatting. I was back in Ghana, then we're chatting. And, she was like, yeah, in the next week or so, the kids will be on break. So we would have some break, whatever. It's boring. I don't have so much to do. And I was like, what if I visited you in Poland? She was like, no, that can happen. You are in Ghana. Like, how can you even come and visit me in Poland, So, it started off as a joke. And I was like, okay, let's see. So after that call, after that specific call, I made a few calls and boom, I booked a ticket to Poland. And, there is always that question that how far can you go for love? I would say mine was about 6,000 kilometers traveling all the way from Accra to Poland to visit my girlfriend. So yeah, I planned a trip. It was a 10 days trip. Flew down to Poland to visit her. That was when she was doing her internship. And we're like, yeah, well, I'm here in Poland. We could travel around, those few days that you're free, we could travel around, go somewhere. And he was like, yeah, I asked, where would you like to go? He's like, well, maybe we could go to France. And in the process of booking our flight to France, for some reason, my card wouldn't work. I was like, okay, if it wouldn't work, maybe I can just book a bus ticket and we can go to Budapest, because I heard this song about the place and it's like I love that song, so I would love to go there. And it's about 10 hours by bus. So that's how come we ended up going by bus to Budapest for 4 days. Now I'll tell you something, Dozie. A few days before I actually traveled to Poland, I had applied to a company in Hungary. Okay, for a job.
Man, this story gets interesting.
I think a day before the trip, that road trip to go to Budapest, and the plan was, make a stop in Austria and then spend a day in Austria, then go to Budapest. A day before that trip, I got, an email from that company that, well, would like to interview you. It's going to be via video conference, whatever. And I was like, I will come to your office for the interview in person. So they're like, what? You are in Ghana? I was like, no, I'm currently in Poland. I planned a trip to Budapest. It just happened coincidentally. So
I'll be there. Hell?
So yeah, we went to Budapest. Spent 4 days there. I loved the city. I went and I had that interview in person. It was a great interview with that company. Then I really enjoyed my time there, and I told myself I'm going to come back. So the trip was over. We went back to Poland, and then my entire trip was for 10 days. So
Yeah.
flew back to Ghana. And my girlfriend then, she continued with her internship. So exactly, well, when I went back to Ghana, I think a week after, I got an email from the company that I've been accepted for that job, and I have a month to come back to Budapest. So exactly 1 month after I returned from Budapest, I packed my bag and then moved to work there. So that's how the whole move happened. And my girlfriend, well, now my wife, she went back to Ghana to finish her studies, and after her studies, she also came in to visit. She came for like a week or two to visit me while I'm there from Ghana, and went back to Ghana, and yeah, after some time, she moved to join me. So that's how the whole journey, about Budapest. It all started with my love for a song I heard, random song titled Budapest by George Ezra. And went there, loved it, and moved there, and ended up staying for our 4.5 years.
What?
Yeah.
Like, that is such an interesting story. Like,
Yeah.
what are the odds?
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, like, what are the odds that, like, what are the actual odds that you apply for the job, like the time, like, and
It worked perfectly because, like I told you, this was very spontaneous.
exactly.
It just happened randomly. I never planned that trip to Poland. I'll tell you. It's just out of a random talk. I was like, well, what if I come? I will come, and then I book the ticket, and then in the next few days I'm on a flight to Poland.
Like they say, you can just do things. Like so there's this thing I do these days. It's a mental model I saw somewhere which said that it's called do the opposite thing, which is that when it's actually something that's used in some kind of, is it therapy style for certain kind of people, but it's a really interesting mental reframing, which is that, so for example, when you feel like, so let's say someone gets you angry, for example, the usual reaction is you lash out at the person.
Right.
But do the opposite thing just says to you that in most situations, you don't have to. You just do the opposite thing. The opposite thing could be walk away.
Yep.
Or just smile and be like, well, that wasn't great, but no issues at all. But like, and it's kind of linked to this in the sense that, because more often than not, like spontaneous things, we get that feeling, but we push it away because like, this is too much work. Like it's so like it's almost like just do the thing, like do the opposite
just do it.
Do the opposite of the feeling, because you never know where it goes to.
Exactly, and I think that's one thing about me. Like if I really think of something, like think of doing something, or I set my mind to something, I take hella risk. I would do it. So that's how crazy it is. And I'll tell you, the first country I visited was Russia. No other place than Russia. That was the first place I ever traveled to. So, everyone was like, why are you going to Russia? I was still in my first year in university then, and I was traveling alone. First time traveling, first time on a plane. But again, that experience has brought me this far, right? Because, like through this whole travel journey, like met a lot of people, grew a lot, And
you always grow.
Really
You always grow.
Where I am right now.
You always grow. Just something I was just going to add, which is, have you ever wondered? I always wonder at the power of media. So you said Russia, and my first reaction was, my internal reaction was Russia, and then you go like, no other place than Russia. Have you ever wondered that? Why do we think that way? Like, we've been primed to think that way about those folks.
That's also the thing, like it's just some of the things, like that's stereotypical thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, the time I went there, the Russian-Ukraine war, it was way before this war, right?
Yeah.
And I got there and I realized, well, this place is not as bad as I thought.
Exactly.
Right? It's not as bad as people actually paint it, right? And then through that journey there, I also realized that the people out there too are not educated on what's happening outside their world, So you would have people come to you and they want to touch your skin because they've not had the opportunity to actually interact with an African or with someone who is black, and the only thing they see on television is Africa is poor. So they even wonder, how are you able to fly? Like, how are you able to pay for your flight ticket? I thought you guys live in the jungle. So sometimes the media shows
gosh, like it's I was so this morning I have I'm in a couple of groups, a couple of friends where we just kind of just exchange ideas and talk about stuff. And one of the things we've been talking about is someone shared a video about some guy who is doing something with Meta, and the guy literally said, "I'm a propagandist. I'm not a journalist. I'm not here to I'm not quoting my words, like I will defend my ideals and all that stuff. I'm not saying exactly what he said, but I think what the point he was trying to make was that he's not here to kind of pretend or be the neutral. He has a bias, and I think my friend was like, he's actually one of the people being honest, and he said that's the problem in media. But I said to him that it's not the problem with media. That's a human problem. And it relates to the immigration conversation and every other conversation in the sense that we always frame things based off the bias and the perspective and the things we want to gain. It's just a human problem.
That's true. Yeah.
It is the human problem.
It's humans on the media, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's humans propagating whatever news, whatever message.
Yeah, and so the media just has the tools to do that, and they've now learned how to do it. Because it's something I always think about now, which is that when you read something, the question I start asking myself is, what do they want me to think? Because more often than not, someone wants me to think something and then frames a story in a certain way. And then just kind of coming back to the story you just said about these folks, is that someone has made them think that way and has framed those stories for them.
Right.
And, unfortunately, as humans, we can be very lazy thinkers. We just, what's the easy path here? Okay, it's this. Okay, yeah, that's okay.
Yep.
It suits our narrative of the world, our bias, and how we are raised, and then we go on with that.
And then we go with it. Yeah. That's so true.
And I think that's one advantage of living across countries, that you start to, I said to people, I tell people that if you understood what the other person understood, you'll probably do what they did. So be careful how you judge people.
Exactly.
But the other build-up question I have for you is, and then considering that you were in love with the country because of a song, how did you end up deciding to come to Canada?
Well, yeah, I had a blast there. So, like I said, my girlfriend later moved. So she also moved. We had a great time. I eventually left that first company. I moved to another company, which was an energy, one of the top energy companies in the world.
Yeah.
We had a good job. She had a good job as well, working for an energy company. So, it was good. Life was good, and we were also surrounded by friends. So one of the things I did when I got the opportunity to move to the company there was, when the opportunity came, I paid it forward, I pulled people along. So I was able to, bring in few folks from Ghana who also brought in few folks. So, over the years, the community there grew.
Yeah.
Right. So, having these people around, like these friends around, go out together, travel together, have fun, also work and all that, made it
fun,
an interesting place to actually live. And now you'll be asking, why did you decide to leave? And I think as we grow and as we think of settling down, you sort of start looking into the future and ask yourself, what's the direction for me? Right? Especially for us as immigrants, when it comes to asking that question of your direction, it ties into how possible it is for you to stay in the long term, your residency, your citizenship and all that stuff, right? So, even in as much as I loved the place, one of the reasons why we decided to move was that if we would live there for a long time and eventually go down the rabbit hole of getting the citizenship, we need to learn the language. Now, I'll tell you, life is too short to learn Hungarian, because it's one of the most difficult languages in the world, and I really, if I could use this word, suck at learning languages. Like, I'm not ready to go down that rabbit hole. And also the fact that we had good jobs, we were paid good, But if you know Hungary very well and the currency, they actually spend Hungarian forints, which is a bit, you know, if you would compare like the conversion with other currencies, it's like way below the belt, right?
Okay.
So even though you are making good money in the country, you can have fun with what you're making. Once the money crosses the border, it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? And I mean, for us Africans, when we travel out, it's not just for the fun of it.
Yeah, exactly. You're sitting back, like yeah.
So in the long term, we thought, okay, we have to move, like find somewhere where one, we wouldn't have to always chase, renew our work permit or our temporary residence card or whatever, and also somewhere where eventually when we have kids, they can also call that place their second home, so they don't have to worry about documentation and whatnot. So started a conversation with my then girlfriend, now my wife. So we're like, yeah, we have to go somewhere, and now where would it be, right? She was like, yeah, maybe we could go to Germany, or because I had traveled to Germany in the past for an internship also, and I was like, nah, I have a hate-love relationship with Germany, and I wouldn't want to go back there. And for sure, it's going to be the same story because you need to learn the language, like for most of the European countries, right? And I didn't want to go through that, so like, let's look at an English-speaking country, And the UK was out for some reason. Again, what we hear on the media.
Yeah.
I never went to the UK, but I heard a lot of stories about the UK. And based on what I heard, I was like, maybe it wouldn't be the right place for us to move to.
Interesting, yeah.
And it's like, okay, maybe the US. Again, the media shooting, mass shooting. It was just around that time we were hearing a lot of that.
Yeah.
Black person gunned down, all that stuff. So eventually we had to settle on Canada. Didn't know so much about the country then, but at least if you hear Canada, it's US or Canada, or it's part of the big pack.
Yeah.
So we started looking into, okay, then what would be the best way to do this? The easiest, best way would be to studying, right? So we both applied to school. I applied for a cybersecurity program out here in New Brunswick. My wife also did same. He applied to another program, and thankfully we both got accepted. And yeah, we left. Yeah.
If you think about the guy who left Ghana and the guy who left Hungary for Canada, who am I talking to right now?
Well, I would say now it's a whole different kind of guy. I'll tell you, because a lot have changed, right? Like,
yeah, and I want to explore that. Like,
a lot has changed, because even looking back, the other time I was talking to one of my friends, who I used to hang out with a lot back in Budapest, and I was like, some years ago we'll text each other and be like, hey, this weekend, where's the party at, right? But now you'll be texting each other and be sending baby pictures. You'll be sending baby pictures and stuff. So time has really changed. Now you become a family man, you become more responsible, and as you are married as well, you don't just think about yourself. It's not about you anymore. Whichever decision you decide to make, it's about yourself, your spouse, and your kids and your family first.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say big difference.
If you think about the journey, because that's such an interesting journey. I mean, especially because of how the first one went, and then you had to come here now and as a student. Like, what are the biggest lessons you've learned in that process about you as a person and about the world in general?
Lessons moving here
across both.
Well, I would say for me, like having lived here in Canada for the past 4 years, it pays to actually do a lot of research before you make any move as an immigrant, right? I usually do. I tend to research, but I feel like I didn't do as much research as I could have before moving here, because, and what I always say is that the Canada you think about or you see when you're outside of it is different from that Canada once you're inside. right? So, I mean,
The
talking
media.
about research,
The
of
media.
course, and I'll touch on that briefly. Normally, and this is not just me, like most of our other folks, you know, we follow the media, and now the internet is built such that the algorithm is built such that once you
Mm.
get fed with one, excuse my language, BS, it just continues that
To
way.
give you that, yeah.
Right, so you keep seeing a lot of BSs that will keep telling you, yeah, come, there are a lot of jobs. So in your mind, you know, your expectation is that I get here and then I have a job waiting for me. In my case, I was an IT professional back in Hungary, had some experience under my belt. Even though I was coming to school, I thought immediately I land, I'll find a part-time job. Even though I came prepared, and I know
Yeah.
in most cases people don't come prepared. People don't even come, having their tuition fees. People don't even
Yeah.
come having enough money to take care of them through the next 1 month or even 2 months, right? I came prepared, but again, I was of the impression that you come and then everything is waiting for you. Back to research, back to the lessons learned. What I would have done different, probably find someone who lives here, talk to them, hear their experience, and be more interested in hearing the bad experience.
Yeah, and the
That's
good one.
than the good one. That's one thing that we tend to skip. We only look at the brighter side. We want to
Yeah.
see, you see a friend who lives in Canada, they are driving a nice car. You only care about the fact that they are driving a nice car. But you don't care
Yeah.
about what they went through or what they are going through to actually maintain that car.
Yeah.
So these are some of the things. So, normally if anyone pings me and be like, yeah, I want to move to Canada, I tell them the truth as it is. And what I always tell them is, I'm not telling you to discourage you, but I'm telling you to prepare you so that when you come, you wouldn't make some of the mistakes that I made. Right?
Yeah.
To sort of create that awareness for you.
Mm.
And of course, I've seen a lot of people who came here and they regretted the move because the expectation was this, and then they realized that, well, my expectation wasn't met.
Mm.
So it's always good to do your research, talk to people, not just feed your mind with the BS that will come across, but actually talk to people, not just one, couple people, get their opinion on things, educate yourself well, and then
Mm.
you should come prepared.
Yeah, I have this theory that as I if I live and walk in the West, the more and I learn more about the history and the countries and the way the world works and the human condition, I think we're not so different across the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things are not so different. Like in in comparative terms, it does feel a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
But when you
Agree.
dig it down to how the things work, you start to see that the same principles happen across.
Right.
What just happens is at the extremes in which it happens, but the
It
same
happens.
things happens across countries.
That's true. That's
Same
very true. Yeah.
same
Maybe packaged
greeds.
in a different way.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Like
Just
packaged in a
packaged
different
according to
way.
their
But
culture
yeah.
or how wealthy they are and all that stuff.
Yep.
And but the same things, and it's not so different. And I really like that thing you said about being prepared. I think aside from just being prepared, I think there's someone I interviewed sometime that said, "It's like, why are you actually immigrating?"
Yeah.
A lot of people don't ask that question.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah.
Like, why do you want to move, and why do you want to move to this country?
Yep. And yeah, that's true.
I mean,
And
aside from people who have to move because of wars and all that
yep.
stuff, but if you're an economic migrant, like, why are you moving? Because if you don't,
Yep.
I feel like if you don't answer that question, you're going to come and you're going to get very disappointed. Very, very disappointed.
I agree. Absolutely. I agree. I know one guy personally. He came, for school. For most people, they come and the intention is to stay. After school, I was like, no, I don't think this place is for me. He went back.
I
Went
love
back
those kind of
home.
people. I love those kind of people, actually. Some people will say they're cowards, but I'm like, no, they know themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I always say, like, it is not for everyone.
Yep.
It is not for everyone. And back to what you said, you need to know your purpose. You need to know
Yeah. Like,
the
why are you doing
reason
it?
why you are doing this.
Yeah.
Right?
Like,
Because
why are you doing it?
for me, at the end of the day, irrespective of the challenges I go through, I know that this is the end goal. This is the reason why we made the move, right? So that vision will keep me going,
Yeah.
right? But then if you don't have any, then yeah, you'll be frustrated. You'll be frustrated.
You had mentioned kids, or a kid rather.
Yeah.
I think we talked a bit about this the pre-show. So, like for me, for example, I moved with a kid, so I don't know what it is like to move without a kid. Like, what does it feel like to move without a kid? Like, because now you have a child, and you kind of get a sense of the mental load you have to carry. That just it's like they install a new CPU, a separate CPU that just runs at the back of your head.
Yeah.
Parenting.
That's so true. And I will tell you, when I first started traveling, I was single then, I wasn't dating my wife then. So I started traveling solo, right? And then we started dating, then we started traveling together. Of course, some changes there.
Yeah, exactly.
Because as a solo traveler, see, I'll tell you what, I normally don't plan my trips well in advance. I randomly book tickets, and just a backpack, I go somewhere without an itinerary. Itinerary meaning like a plan. I figure it out once I'm there. But then now you are going with someone,
you can't
who
do
is
that.
more organized. They expect you to bring your list a month ahead of time. So we cross-check it and make sure that it aligns with what we want to do when we go there.
My wife builds Excel sheets for our trips.
Oh yeah, we do that
Excel
too.
sheets. I'm like, John asked me to put it in the Excel sheet. Just leave me alone. I just
Exactly. We do that too. We have a whole list, and the list is detailed. Like day one, this is what we do. This is where we'll eat. The restaurant.
come on.
And then now you have a kid.
And
of course, we still want to continue that travel, life. Our baby is just he'll turn 9 months in a few days. But he's already been to the US. We had our first trip with him to the US, and now the planning is different.
Yeah,
Outside the planning and everything, now you have the baby in the picture. So these are some of the things. Like it changes a lot, but as you grow through the process, I guess God has made us such that you learn on the job. And one thing that's key for us as men is patience. Right? You need to have it, because
you need to learn to have it. I think everyone has to. You learn to have it.
You need to learn to have it. I agree. Yeah. And last time I was telling my wife that before I met you, I was like, I never joke with my time. Like when we are supposed to meet at this time, we meet at that time. And the reason is because I missed my train by a few seconds in Germany, and I had to wait for several hours for the next one. So it taught me that discipline. And then now, you are married, and and then now you have a kid, and you don't even have any control over your time. They decide. Even your wife at this point doesn't have control over the time. So all it requires is patience and planning well in advance, right? So yeah, I mean, at some point it gets overwhelming, because this parenting thing, especially if it's your first one, you learn on the job. You're still trying to figure a lot of things out. And I think we had this discussion the other time with the fact that if you were back home in Africa, you have a village behind you. But out here, you are your own village. Yourself and your wife are the village. And, you have to work things out. You have to figure things out.
Yeah.
And a lot of the ways that, you would have lived if you were back home, because of the fact that you have a village behind you, you wouldn't be able to live that way here.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's just the two of you. You can't push everything to your wife. You have to support. You have to learn how to change a diaper. It's a no-brainer, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Right? There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. The last time I was on a video call with my mom, and I was changing my little one's diapers. She was like, "You can change the diaper?" I was like, "Yeah, I can do." She was so surprised because from where we are coming from,
it's not a thing. It's not a thing. Yeah, it's not a thing. It's not a thing.
But you got to do it. Because it's just the two of you. If your wife is sick, you have to take care of her and the kid, right? So all these things sort of shapes you. So you go from being individualistic, that way of thought changes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because now you have a wife, you have a kid, so yeah.
Although I would even challenge, and I don't know, I mean, I wouldn't claim to know about how it's done here, but let's kind of speak back home in Africa. And Ghana and Nigeria are literally neighbors, so I think our cultures are very similar in a lot of ways. I don't even think it's individualism. I think it's just setting, like, I think they're just setting things, because I do think that the conversation about helping out in the house is a bit muddled up. And I don't join it because I feel like there are a lot of things. There are identity conversations in there. There's people who are carrying on their trauma, and so we can't even have a decent conversation.
Yeah.
So it's not even, I don't think it's individual, because the point is that back in Africa, the man literally also makes sure to try and do everything, and he just leaves the other thing to the woman to do. But then the world has also changed along the way, and Africa too has changed in its own way. So like women work more now. Women are also contributing to the home now. So in sense also, it's also okay to say the man has to evolve to also make sure that he meets up. Then, but there's the other part of it. They say back home in Nigeria, for example, you can easily get domestic help compared to back here in Canada. Like here in Canada, there's no domestic help unless you want to pay it through the nose. And even if I had the money, I'm not sure I would be able to. I will be able to. I have the mind to give someone that amount of money. I'll do it myself. I'm gonna do it myself. I love my children that much. So I think it's just all that. So it's such a. It's a. I don't think what is individual. I think it's more of like it was a culture. Was it good or bad? It's easy, because I'm always very these days. I try not to say good or bad anymore, because I'm like, what is good or what is bad?
That's true.
I mean, I'm sitting down here based off with what I know today, and I'm saying what was done then was bad. That is because information has changed. To them at that point in time, it was a way of life. We've improved on it.
I agree, and that's what they were used to.
Yeah, so
that's the culture.
Yeah, right? So all these things of where we say is a bad culture, like okay, this we love to moralize as human, which is okay, But I'm like, again, it's back to that thing I said earlier about if you understand what people understand, maybe you be a bit empathetic and just ask. The question is that why? I think it's more like understanding why was that culture set up that way,
right?
And what can be done to change it? Because I'm pretty sure that there are things our kids or our grandkids or our ancestors will look back at us today and say there are things Dozie and Emmanuel did that was just stupid. Like, why did they do that? And to us now, it is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And to kind of bring it back to the immigrant experience, because I feel like, I think that one of the best things immigration does to you is it forces you to face your biases. Because you have to change. And you have to you have to tear open all the things you took as normal. Right. And ask yourself if they are actually normal. And if you're not able to do that, then you're going to struggle, because you literally, I say to people, when you move, what happened to you is that you packed your life into 2 suitcases, you left the person you were before, and literally started becoming a new kind of person. And so when you say that my whole self, they're not accepting my whole self, you're probably not being very honest with yourself.
Right.
Because your whole self is not, like, for example, your whole self is not Ghanaian anymore. Your whole self is a mix of Ghana and Hungary and Canada right now.
Yep, with all those places. That's true.
Yeah, exactly.
It changes the way you think.
Yeah, exactly.
It changes the way you think. It changes your perspective, towards a lot of things.
And so it's just such a I find that topic very interesting, But how are you enjoying being a parent, though? By the way, without the village.
Well, it can get overwhelming, I would say. That's for sure. The sleepless night. I'll tell you, like, one of the things that I never ever played with was my sleep. I never joke with my sleep, but now, it's
when someone says that, I'm like, wait till you have kids. Like, when someone says that, I'm like, because you can't do anything about it.
You can't. You have no choice. If you have no choice. And now I'm like, I look back and, even sometimes my wife was like, wow, you've really tried because I would sleep, man. And I would sleep if I get the chance. But now you can't. You have to be there,
Yeah.
because baby calls. So you have to be
Yeah.
there. But then again, in as much as it can be overwhelming, it's also fun, right? For me, like anytime I'm at work and I receive videos from my wife, videos of the baby, sometimes I call, in between my shifts at work, and video call with the baby, and he's happy. Lunchtime I just drive home to have lunch with them, and it's always it gives me some form of fulfillment anytime I come home to see him. I come home to see my wife. I'm always in a rush to come home. I look forward to coming home because I know that I have a bundle of joy waiting for me at home. I can play with and all that. So I would say it's a mixed feeling. It's a mixed feeling, but at the end of the day, it becomes rewarding. That's how I think, right? That it becomes rewarding at the end of the day because God has given you a gift, and this time you are going to nurture this, gift, just like someone nurtured you. You are
Yeah.
going to apply your own principles, sort of shape them, discipline them, see them grow, So it's a whole learning experience, but at the end of the day, it's a fulfilling experience. That's how I've come to see it.
Yeah.
And in the long term, this little one, he's named after me. He has the exact same name as myself. No junior even registered, but even though at home we call him junior. So this is like a little, like raising a little me, So yeah, it's a very interesting journey, and
Yeah.
I'm loving it so far. I'm loving it so far. I'll never change a thing about having him. I'm really enjoying being a father. Now he can say "dada" and he won't stop. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're rounding up right now, but I want to explore something with you, which is how do you describe yourself now? Are you Ghanaian, Hungarian, Canadian, or are you Ghanaian, or do you think you'll be Ghanaian, Canadian at some point, like, or
Well,
something else?
I would say I'm more of a global citizen, if you ask me.
I love that.
More of a global citizen because of all these places I've been to. Even though these are the 3 places I've lived the longest, but
Yeah.
then there are several other places in between, right? So that really has shaped the way I think
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways. And when it comes to, nurturing someone like my baby,
Yeah.
that global perspective sort of helps me in shaping him into the direction I want to see him.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a mix of all these places, I've been, a mix of
Mm-hmm.
all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. When last did you visit Ghana?
We did last year. We did last year. Unfortunately, my wife's dad passed,
Oh
so
shit, so sorry.
we had to fly down for the funeral.
Do you still recognize yourself as one of them back home? I mean, you lived there for a while. Like, when you go there, do you feel like the other, or or does it feel like when you land there, all this parts of you just kind of take a pause as you step out of the airport and you become Ghanaian again?
I don't think I become fully Ghanaian. The reason being that my exposure, like we said, talking, about culture and some of the things that back home we feel is normal. Now I
Yeah,
have a different perspective towards certain things, right? So I'll see certain things and I'll be like, no, this is not right,
yeah,
right? The old me would have been like, yeah, it's normal, right? So in that sense, I would say, I don't consider myself fully at that point because when I go back, there are things that in the past I would have said, well, this is okay, but now I would say no, it is not okay.
mm, fair. I mean, I have friends who say like once they go back home, they drop everything. I'm like, how do you do it? Because like, yeah, like I don't feel like
Yeah,
I don't feel that way.
yeah.
And seeing that you feel that way, what do you now define as home?
Well, Ghana is still going to be home. Ghana is still going to be home. That's that's where I am from. That's where I live the longest. That's where when I go, at least I feel, this is home. And as much as I think that certain things need to change, maybe it may end up not changing, because of the exposure I've had, I have different opinions and perspective towards things. But irrespective of that, that place still feels like home. And if you ask me in the next several years where I find myself, I think it's still going to be back home at some point.
Yeah.
It's still gonna be back home at some point.
Yeah, we left too late to ever fully shed that
exactly.
part of us. Yeah.
Exactly. So I know definitely at some point I'm gonna go back, and I know going back to assimilate may be a bit difficult, maybe the first few months, few years, because I've not worked in a corporate Ghana environment. So assuming I was even supposed to go back and work in Ghana corporate, that's going to be like a whole different wahala for me, and all that. But regardless, it's still home. It's still home to me.
Yeah. I think my last question for you, honestly, is I'm very interested in what do you think you left a part of you back in Hungary before you moved? Do you think you left a part of your identity in Hungary, or do you think the full you came to Canada? Do you think there are parts of you that you had to kind of drop and be like, okay, this was a life and you moved on, or you think you brought your full self here, both the parts of you that you picked up in Hungary to Canada? Do you think so? I'm just curious, honestly. Like,
I think the Hungarian, some part of me, like some part of the Hungarian part of me came with me, and that's in a way, like looking at the way we do things here, right? The way we do certain things here is quite different from the way people do back in Europe.
Yeah.
Now, because of how long I lived there, I got used to the fact that if you meet someone in an elevator, you mind your own business, right? But you come to an environment where people want to chit chat even if they don't know you.
Yeah.
They want to say hi, and all that. They become, in my opinion, too friendly. So that's still there. That's something I picked up from Hungary, that I got used to that way of living, right? Mind your own business if you need to mind your own business, right? But then again, the environment is different. So I would say I'm still sort of getting used to adjusting. Yeah, I'm still adjusting. Like a lot of things, I see certain things and I'm like, man, this can't happen in Hungary. Like the bus delays for, well, thankfully I don't need to pick the bus, but when I was a student, a few weeks into being a student, the bus delays for an hour or doesn't even show up at all, and no one is held accountable, no one cares. Well, that can't happen in Hungary. If the bus delays for 10 minutes, heaven will break loose.
Are you serious?
Yes, heaven will break loose. The bus can't delay past 10 minutes. Heaven will break loose. And the other time I was talking to one friend who moved from Norway here, and she was telling me about how back in Norway, if the bus delays, I think it's 5 minutes or something like that, if it delays and you are late for your appointment and you need to pick a taxi because the bus or the metro or whatever delayed, the transport company would have to pay for that taxi. Like they would have to reimburse you because it's not your fault that they are late. You were there on time. So you get used to things like this, and you come here and like you're on your own.
Oh God.
So these are some of the things, but I'm adjusting, like you said. And I try also to tell myself from time to time that I'm in a new environment, right? Things are going to be different. A friend told me some time ago, when I first came, I was complaining a lot about a lot of things. And the friend, we used to live in Budapest together, and he moved to Germany, and he was like, you know what, Emmanuel, I think Budapest spoiled us. I think Budapest spoiled us. So that's the thing. You just have to set my mind to the fact that this is a new environment. It won't be the same as what I was used to. So I just need to make the most out of my stay here.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice catching up to see.
Yeah. Like, thank you so much.
Yep,
This is a good. It was an interesting one.
yep. And if I'll leave anything for your listeners, it would be that, especially for those who are looking at, traveling, immigrating, or whatever it is, like you should always do your research. You should
Yeah.
always do your research, talk to people, try to find out really, the life out there, and you should take that education. You should take that education as an awareness, not a discouragement, right? Um, it's it's helping you be aware of where you are going, so you can plan
Yeah.
accordingly. Basically,
Yeah. Because if you don't, like, I think you do your research and then you kind of know why you want to now go. Because and you know that thing you said earlier on about how, like, don't just ask for the good things. Oh, are there jobs? Like, why are jobs hard to get?
yeah,
How long does this take for you to get an interview?
yeah.
You just
Look
ask
into the weeds.
ask the uncomfortable questions and get used to the uncomfortable questions.
Exactly.
Thanks, man.
Alrighty.
What do you think about what Emmanuel ended this episode with? Because I think a lot of us just move and we don't have any plan. None. No plan at all. We just move. And then when you struggle, you blame everyone but yourself. Do your research and really ask yourself, why do you want to come to Canada, or why do you want to go to the States? That's it. As always, thank you so much for getting to this point of the episode. If you know someone who finds this useful, please send this to them. If you know someone we should talk to, send them our way. We're on YouTube, Substack, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcast, anywhere you get your video podcast, you can find us there. Ciao, people.